Hey guys, Sean W here with another episode of the Coffee Ketchup, where we get caught up on all the latest things. Now, normally in Coffee Catch Up, we do the news, and then sometimes we have special guests. But today we're not doing the news because, in my opinion, our guest is the news. So we have a former 343 designer, level designer, developer, who has agreed to come on the show and share some awesome insight just about, honestly, gaming development in general. I'm telling you right now, it's more like general content, right? If you're looking for little leaks and stuff like that, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be valuable information for anybody who is considering becoming a game developer or anyone who's just interested in game development in general. Throughout the entire episode, I was sipping on my Moon Rose from Galactic Roasters. You can pick up a bag if you want to support the channel. We had an incredible hour and a half long conversation. His name is Caleb Nakamanesh. He is just an incredible human, honestly. Incredibly talented, as you're going to see. He's going to show you guys all about level design. This is a long one, so you're going to want a nice full cup of coffee, maybe even a snack as well. But I think if you take the time to listen to what he has to say and just our conversation, we swap personal stories and whatnot, I think you'll find it very informative and useful to you. So, without further ado, let's go check it out. All right, guys, let's give a warm welcome to Caleb Nekamanesh on
The Coffee Ketchup.
All right. That was pretty good. Pretty good. So Caleb here is an incredible person. We've had a lot of conversations recently. He's just a just nice person, intelligent person, incredibly talented. We're going to go over all his work today. We got some incredible topics for you guys. I think this is going to be a super informative discussion we're about to have on game development and just many other things related to gaming. Caleb, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, because you have done a lot, honestly. You are quite accomplished. So tell us what your current title is, past titles.
Sure. Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm currently an environment artist for Amazon Studios, and I've also been a game designer. I've been a level designer. I've worked in video and graphic design, and yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you did work on Halo Infinite, so that's pretty cool, as a campaign level designer.
Campaign level and gameplay designer, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you really are like a developer, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so. I started off as a level designer there, and then of course, at a point, we switched it to gameplay design focused. So yeah, I in my own personal work and in the smaller indie studios that I've worked at, I've had a variety of different roles, from level artist / environment artist to like gameplay design, level design, systems design, stuff like that.
Lots of design. So you're a designer. And incredible stuff. So Caleb and I have a unique relationship, I would say, because I did make a video on a level that he made, and we're going to go over that. You guys can see that right here. We'll definitely be going over that. But the thing I wanted to open this sort of discussion podcast with is a lot of you guys are very interested in game development, right? Like Alex Infinite Forges, I know he's sort of in your orbit. He creates some really nice stuff, and I know you guys interact, and that's how you have kind of stayed in my orbit, and we interact. Alex, he's not, he hasn't worked for a game studio, but he's interested in working for a game studio. A lot of you guys are too as well. A lot of you guys show me your creations, and it's obvious, and you make it obvious that, hey, I want to work for 343 someday, or any game developer, But like many things in life, reality is different than what you expect, and it's important to go into things, understanding, what they're actually going to be like. And that's something I want to share with you guys personally, just from my personal experiences, just being, an entrepreneur and, the projects I've done personally, the sort of the jobs I've had. But we'll get to those in the future. This is more about Caleb's experience. So, Caleb, we discussed at other times, what your expectations were when you decided that you wanted to get into game development, and then what the reality was. And we really talked about how it's important for people to understand what it's really like to work on a game. So I was hoping you could share some of your experiences that you've had in the past years, just with what you expected game development would be like, and then what the reality was. I think that's really informative for people.
Yeah, sure. So, I started, you know, so I have a long history with Halo. Halo was actually the first person shooter that I ever played.
Wow,
It was given to me as a gift from one of my good friends.
that's an
And
awesome friend.
he I don't think he knew what that game was, and then when we played it, it was just like a blast. I was young, I didn't fully understand everything that was going on, but it was really fun. And throughout the years, Halo's been like a really close um really close franchise, only mainly because of nostalgia, I would say, and also because I just enjoy the art, I enjoyed the gameplay.
Hmm.
And essentially throughout the years, I've enjoyed, playing it, making content. I used to use Forge when I was younger, like back when Halo 3 was a thing. We used to make fun little maps. We played, LAN parties. It was a blast. Um,
What was your
and then
favorite
when I get
Halo?
into
Sorry to
to
interrupt you, but which is your favorite? I have to ask. I was a long time Halo fan.
Halo 1,
Nice.
Halo 1
Okay.
is my favorite.
Nice. Mine's Halo
Uh,
2, but you guys know that. My Halo 1, I would. I mean, that's a good answer. I would say.
Yeah, like I loved Halo 1 mainly because it kept a lot of the mystery. Halo 2 is a great game. But of course they went deep into the lore, which I love. But I think maybe it's like a nostalgic feeling, Halo 1, because it was the
Yeah.
first time, like it was mystery. And like when I was younger, it was also scary. Like the first time I played it, I don't even
Yes.
remember how old I was, but it was like the flood levels, and like just like the music and the atmosphere was creepy to me, and it was it was just like a nostalgic feeling. But uh I think the biggest thing too is like, I ended up going to school for game design and at DigiPen, and CART is the Center for Advanced Research and Technology. uh, and I personally, I had a certain experience with, going to school, but the biggest thing it taught me was, well, what I thought was important was essentially like, this is how you make games, is what I
Mm.
learned in school. Like I
Okay.
went through a very set standard of like how games are made and what influence you have on games. And I think the the biggest thing that I had to learn, less so in smaller studios, because smaller studios is you pretty much have a lot of leeway on what you do, because you wear many hats when you're a small indie developer.
Right.
But once I think 343 was the first big game studio that I worked at, and it was a little bit of a culture shock. Like it was something that I had
Mm.
to get used to, because I had to get like my ego in check. Because the biggest thing was that I didn't know was that the way that I was taught games are made is not how games are made.
Wow.
It's not.
I mean,
It's
that's kind of common across a lot of things, you know. I know just personally, in college I learned a certain way to write, for example, and then you get into the real world, it's like, business writing is totally different, you know. So it's common across a lot of things. It's interesting to hear that it applies the same with gaming.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's something that even from like a level design perspective, like personally, like, I worked for a small indie studio at one point, and when I was in school, I was taught the only way to do level design is through blockouts, like white box blockouts. And I'm not
Oh,
sure if you guys
I don't know
understand
what those
know what
are.
the term is,
What
but
are
yeah, if
blockouts?
you, I
Just
could
like
show
the
you
too
real
long
quick.
didn't read.
Yeah, sure. Let me get you just a screenshot.
Okay,
Level
let me see if I
design
can
block.
bring that up right. Let me make sure I do it right. So I bring this up
Sure.
and then I click this. Oh no, that didn't work. That seems to work.
There we go. Yeah, so this is what a level design blockout might look like. This is an Uncharted level. I think this was actually posted by one of the Uncharted level designers,
Oh,
lead
this
level
looks
designer. So
cool,
like,
dude.
yeah, so this is what a blockout would look like, and I was taught that this is the only way to do level design. But the thing is that especially when I learned in the first studio I worked at, which was a smaller studio, is like no, like that is probably a great
you
way
got
to do
some
it for certain projects,
you
but
got
for
some
some,
Halo.
it's
Sorry, Caleb, you got some Halo on the right. That's all good, right?
where?
Up up I think it's all right, right? On the top right, it says similar
Oh,
images. That's fine, right?
oh no, like that. This is just stuff. I don't think
Oh,
any.
okay.
I'm not sure
I don't know. I was
what
just
this
calling it
is,
out.
but
I think it's fine.
yeah.
Anyways,
But
sorry.
yeah, so like that's the thing. That's actually what Blocktober was for, and I think it just finished. But like, yeah, essentially people do these blockouts. This is great for certain things, but
What
like
is?
what I learned is that there's many ways to do level design.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay. I see. Let's go back to the other screen. Let me make sure I don't screw it up. Yep. And then I click this. There we go.
Cool.
Oh, there we go. So, right. So you're taught one way in school, and then, but it seems like the change really happened more. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you went to 343, because it sounds like you worked in indie studios, and that wasn't as much of a shock as it was going to like a large studio, because 343 was your first large studio.
Yeah, like of course it happened, in the smaller studio that I worked
Okay.
at, but it is of course something that was a bigger influence. It's something that I had to learn, and I was still learning when I worked at 343 because the biggest thing too is like you're working on a large project, a project that you uh, means a lot to a lot of people. And I think the biggest thing that I had to learn at that point, especially since I have a really close relationship with Halo, like I love Halo. I have certain views of Halo. I want to see Halo go in a direction that I hope other people like. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to get to a point where you realize with any project you're working on that you are not making a game for you. You're making a game that belongs to the fans. You belong making a game that belongs to a company. And that's the thing is like realizing that and being able to shut down your own wants and your desires to be like, okay, you have
Yeah.
to make a game for people, and you have to make a game based on what they hired you for. They hired you to do a product. You have to do that what they ask you to do, and
Right.
sometimes you might disagree, but
Right.
that's okay because that's just the nature of making games.
Yeah, I mean, that's like any big organization. Just my own personal experience. I've worked for larger organizations, and it's like, yeah, it's tough, man. That's just part of life. You get when you finally work for a big company or just like a big organization, there's what you want to do, and then there's the reality of it. There's like, I guess, a corporate culture, we could say. Is that a good way to describe? Like, kind of
I
sum it up?
mean, maybe, but I mean, it doesn't just happen with corporations. It happens with
Mm.
everything. You
Mm-hmm.
you might have much more control in a smaller company, but you're still making you're doing a job for somebody else. Somebody's paying you to do a job. You have limited control over what you're doing unless you're like a lead or a director or something. So it's like
Right.
of course you might have certain guidelines when you're them, but still it's like you don't really have much of control of what you're doing. You're doing a job for somebody. You're trying to make a game that people will enjoy and follows the design and the artistic guidelines of the product. So you just kind of have to go with that. And
And that's
yeah.
tough because you're such a creative person. Like your work is incredible. Let's take a look at that. Let's switch back over to, well, not switch back over, but switch over to some of your work. It's definitely difficult because I'm like you. I don't, I'm not a game developer, but I do believe I'm a very creative person. So that was a challenge I had when I worked for a large company. It was like, and this is a totally different field, not video games, but it's like I'm creative and I kind of want to do things my way. Like I'm like I see new ways to do things and different things, but it's like no, like we do it like this, and I feel like maybe that's what is what you're alluding to, perhaps, because based off your work here, you're incredibly creative, and it's hard, I think, for a creative person to kind of, I mean, let's just be honest, just be told what to do. Like I don't like, if I'm creative, I want to make my stuff. I don't want to really be told what to do. I like to just make my videos, and it's hard, and it's like I didn't get any training on that. Nobody explained this to me. I had to go in there and figure that out on my own, kind of by like making mistakes, dude. Like doing things,
Mhm.
be like, hey, we should do it like this, and then you kind of like, it's like the nail that sticks out gets hammered, and they're like, no, Sean, like it's not gonna be your way. This is how it's gonna be. So you can either do this, or, you know. So I don't know. I kind of just ranted there. What do you think of that? Maybe you
I
could
think that's I think yeah,
help me
that's
look at your
definitely
work.
like yeah, that's definitely something that's something important to consider because when you when you're doing a project for somebody, like think about what would happen if everyone ran off and did their own thing. Like yeah, the
Hmm.
project would be a mess. Uh,
Right.
but like also the thing is that you want to consider, hey, look at all this work that people before you, hundreds or maybe more of people have done before you, and you might not agree with what they did, but you can't deny the amount of work that went into it, and you have to be able to be like, okay, well, I think that was the big wake up call for me because I went into projects being like, oh, would be cool if we did this. What if we tried this? What if we tried this? And
Hmm.
then it hits a point where you're like, well, okay, stop, Caleb. Look at what all these other people have done. Look at the work that has gone into it. Just accept that it happened, and then like figure out how to make their work look good. Like I
Right.
think that's one of the best roles, like the best descriptions of what a designer does is to make everyone else's work look the best it can be.
That
Um,
makes sense. I think
yeah,
it's particularly difficult too for you because you're a Halo OG. You've been a fan for such a long time. So it's not just that you're a creative person working on a project. It's also that it's something you have a lot of passion for. And it's like
yeah,
the history of the franchise, so it's even more difficult. And look, it's not a secret. We know Halo Infinite is moving in a new direction. It's going to be free to play, right? There's plenty of stuff we've seen, and we know this game is gonna. These are just amazing, dude. Honestly, I wish I could create this stuff. I would do this if I could.
thank you.
But we already know this game's moving in a new direction, and I think that's something that Halo fans in general have been struggling with, the longtime fans, because we never had a free to play Halo game. It seems like it's going to be vaguely open worldy, so there's going to be a lot of new changes that are coming, and we as fans, we're used to it being one way. And so it's got to be particularly challenging. It's like difficult for just us, the fans, looking on the outside in, and you're like a fan who had to work on the game, you know? What was that like essentially?
Um,
Being a longtime fan, and you gotta. It's at the end of the day, it's a job.
yeah, I think that working at 343 was the best, like a great experience and one of the best experiences that I had. It taught me a lot. It was great to work on a franchise that I loved.
Hmm.
Um, it's not something that I would recommend to people who are a fan of the franchise, not because it's a bad place to work, but
Uh,
precisely for the reason that it kind of you it ruins the mystery, right? Like I'm not going to
yeah.
be surprised by Halo Infinite anymore. Like I'm probably going to be surprised by certain things that they've changed. Of course I haven't worked there for a few months now,
Hmm.
and they're going to be working on it for who knows how long now. But like I can't say that I'm surprised by Halo Infinite anymore, and that's part of the thing that I was excited about.
Yeah.
It creates excitement is the intrigue and stuff. Of course I was able to give it all my all. I worked as hard as I could to for the hope that people would like it because I know that millions of people are going to play content that I helped create,
Right.
and that's intimidating, right? It's intimidating, it's scary, it's exciting, but it also means that it's not it's not something that I could say that is like, oh, is the best experience ever. No, like of course it has its downside. Downside is it's not exciting. I've played the game many times through to make sure that the content was what I hoped it to be. I've Yeah, in short, it's a great
It's
experience, but I
the way I see it. It's kind of like
it's
when you cook food, it never tastes as good as when someone cooks for you. It always tastes better when someone cooks for you. That's
yeah,
me.
the faults. You're more critical. You understand that where you went wrong. You understand the work and the mistakes and everything that went into it. So you can't look at the food in a way that you can't look at your work in a way that is, you know, designers, artists, like honestly, like from everyone that I've talked to, and me specifically, like at least I can give you my experiences. Like I'm never happy with anything that I do. It's
Hmm.
just because
I can relate to that.
I know what went into it. I know the things that I did wrong. Yeah, it's like every like from what I've asked from all creatives, it's just the thing that what you could have done better. Even if you couldn't have done better at that time, I look it back at my work, my old work, and I can see nothing but mistakes and failures and stuff. And that's just the thing that, uh, I think it's good to an extent that it helps ground you, and it helps you get to a bar that you're happy with, because if you're never happy, like if you're always trying to achieve better, especially on a product that millions of people are going to go play and go through, having that in the back of your head kind of helps you get to a point where uh, you're never really you're critical of your own work more so than probably the public will be. So you
Right,
could
right.
prepare for that. You can think about, how will the public react to this? Will they hate it? Will they love it? How can I make it better? And you're always asking that question until a producer comes and tells you to stop working. It's like,
Like I know what you're saying. Like I'm going through your stuff right now on screen, and like I love it. Like I think it looks fantastic, but I'm sure if you went back and looked at it, you'd be like, oh, this little rock or something, this thing here. And it's like, I don't notice, dude, you know? So it is kind of like a, back and forth of making something you're happy with, but then also understanding that the public, they're never gonna scrutinize your stuff, as much as you will. But still, that's how creatives, that's how we improve. That's how we keep making better things, That's the only way we can get better is by being critical of ourselves.
it's a it's a good way to keep your ego in check too, is just kind of seeing, the
I
stuff
like
that can
that.
go into.
Yeah.
I'm known to be like, as soon as I get praised for something, my ego alarm goes off a little bit, and I have
Okay.
to be like, all right, calm down, calm down. They might like that, and that feels awesome, and I'm really happy that they enjoyed a work that I did, but that doesn't mean that I could just say that everything I do is awesome, which it doesn't. So it's like,
Right.
that's why I'm always trying to do better and always trying to improve, and uh, in any way I see possible.
So again, I think this is really valuable for you guys because again, a lot of you, let's see if we can go back to the regular thing. A lot of you guys have, um, you know, expressed interest in me, to me, express interest in me, express interest to me about working, and doing game development. A lot of you guys, obviously, this is video games. So just how a lot of people want to be like a streamer, pro gamer, there's a lot of people who want to do development. I feel like we really touch on a lot of good things. What would you tell someone, who maybe isn't even in design school yet or is in school? What would be some things you would tell them, and advise them, on how they can go work for a large game developer and, have realistic expectations, have a good time there, and have better, and just know what to expect, right? Because it seems like, you had to learn through experience, right? I had to learn through experience in my own way. It's such an important thing, right? Going and working
Yeah.
for these large places, and it's like no one teaches you. It's really bizarre. So, what would be some tips that you would give someone who has not worked at a place like 343 or any large studio, just any large studio? What would you tell them? Imagine it's like almost your child. Your child is going to go be a game developer. What are you going to tell them?
Well, I can't shy away from what you said in the beginning there, is like, if they're going to design school, the first thing I would say is get out.
Wow,
Get out of
really?
design school ASAP.
Oh my god.
I'm not at
Well,
all bashing school. I'm
no,
saying that school is good, but
do you need design school to get a job at these places? Like, do they really care about the degree you get from there and the certifications, or can you get hired without that? That's something I don't know.
no, no, you don't need.
You
In
don't
fact,
need it.
at least from
Oh, so this
I
is
that I
valuable.
can't deny that may be valuable in certain places.
Hmm.
I could tell you that I have never graduated. I've been to school
Okay.
twice, but never graduated,
So then it doesn't
unfortunately for
matter.
financial reasons.
Bro, I'm right
But
there with you. I'm TJ Maxx Sean, man. I'm
yeah, I was too I guess too didn't have enough money to finish school. But the point is like that's I think the biggest thing too is that it's not only not important, but it's detrimental.
Wow.
Um, for certain things, right? Of course, school. I'm a big advocate of education, and especially
Right.
good education. But the thing is that I went to school. I went to school for many years, and I think the biggest problem with it is one, everything you learn in school you can learn online and by yourself through experience
Mm.
faster and better. Mainly because, so say for instance, I unfortunately have been working since I was young. So I've been doing contract work since I was in high school.
Mm. I've been doing
And
work too, man. I did
yeah, and
car
the thing
stuff
is, I was
though.
even working on my own stuff. Like I couldn't work for a company, but I was still working since I was in middle school. Like the thing
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
that's the thing is like I've always been working, and I went to school thinking
That's why
that
we
it
get
was the
along, dude.
best.
Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you. I'm just saying, like
yeah, no problem.
I used to do car stuff before video games. I would
Hmm.
figure out how to rewire headlights on a car. If a car from the factory, the fog lights wouldn't turn on without the headlights, so I would figure out how to do that, and I would post on like car forums, and I would do work for like $20. Man, it would take me like all day, but I was happy with the monies, and I did that likewise since middle school. I've been working as well, so I totally understand, dude. And it's just like you've been working your whole life. I'm still working, and then you try to go to school because you think it's going to help you out, and then it just ends up costing a lot of money, and then
Yeah, you
and
go
then it
into
doesn't
debt.
work. Yeah.
Debt is gonna follow you. I put myself into debt. I unfortunately the school did not let me. It's debt that's gonna follow you around. And the thing is that
Yeah.
I think that especially the fact is that everything like what you just said, like experience speaks tremendously more than having a piece of paper that says
Mm,
that you finished classes. Because
right.
say for instance, like, even if you look at the own art director from 343, he constantly posts things is like what do art directors look for when they hire somebody?
Mm,
Portfolio. What else?
mm,
That's it. They don't give a crap about your piece of paper.
right. Right.
It's
Right.
just your portfolio, and that's it. And that's the biggest thing too, because it's like, okay, well, if it's yes, the school will give you insight by I think school is good for two things, or maybe three. The first thing is that it gives you connections. People of the
Right.
in the industry are connections. Definitely people you're going to be going to school with are probably going to be in the industry at some point. Therefore, having that connection is of course valuable in a good way. The second thing is to actually learn certain things that you might not be able to learn by yourself. I would say that you could probably learn that by yourself and through experience, because everything that I learned in school, uh, I learned by myself, and just
Mm,
wasn't useful. The thing is, then the third thing that I would say is that school helps push you to
that's
do
true.
something, because the
No,
thing is
it
that you
does.
have to be a real self-starter if you do not want to go to school.
That's right.
Because say for instance me, I worked a full time job. I worked contract jobs, yet I still put in 5 to 6 hours a day building content in Unreal because I wanted to get a job. And I worked really hard and for a long time to try to get even an interview with any people. And like that's essentially why like you have to be a self starter and you have to be building stuff yourself. I built content like every week. I was trying to post something else. I did this other thing, check it out, and I posted it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until doing that and applying to 20 places a week, and like that was essentially everything that I did to try and get my foot in the door. If you're not willing to do that, then school might be good for you, because essentially school helps
Right.
push you to get to that point. But of course, it's a lot of time wasting. It's a lot of
And it's
classes. I
money.
remember I had to spend a whole year. I had to spend a whole year and a certain amount of money on like just college life, because you couldn't graduate without it. So you had to learn how to take notes, how to not break the rules. Is like, really, I'm
Oh
spending
my
this much
god.
money on this class.
Yeah.
Why would I ever do that? Like, I understand,
Yeah.
math, English, those are all important, but the point is that it's not, you don't need to have a piece of paper to say math. Like, if you need to know it, if you need to know this stuff, you can of course learn it on your own. That's the beauty of the technology age these days, is
Right.
that most of the things that you can learn online and learn through experience. And I think that the experience part, more than anything, is what got me to the point I am now, because essentially all I did was build stuff, and then as I build stuff, I'm like, oh, cool, what's this feature? I haven't touched this button over here. What does that do? And then I
Yeah.
realize what that button does. Or if I need help figuring out a specific thing, I just Google up a tutorial, and they go over not only how to use that feature, but how to some other features that are connected with it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. What's this feature? It's like, and then it helps build your knowledge. And the 6 or so years that I've been using Unreal, now I'm able to say, like, oh, I could build levels, but I don't know nearly everything there is to know about Unreal. There's always something new that I'm learning, and that experience is always great.
Yeah, it seems like, it's not even necessarily, it seems like a money thing, man. This is what it feels like to me. It seems like it definitely is useful. It just seems like, and, honestly, that's a conversation for, perhaps that's a whole other thing on money and education. It's not even the education, it's just it's the debt that you have to go into, because few people can pay for college, but it definitely falls into a bigger trend in society, and it's, we're both young, and it's something a lot of young people are experiencing, where they get the education, they go into debt for it, and then they get into the real world where, it's like the education, it's not, it's maybe, it's just not enough. It's not enough for what you need to actually do the job.
And plus, the thing is that a lot of the things you learn are going to be outdated by the end of it.
Right.
That's why so many schools are trying to not teach you the how of doing something, but the why. And I
Ways
think
of
so this,
thinking, methods.
yes. So I think like that's a good thing. Like, say for instance, I know that I went to a school called DigiPen, and like that school, they at least tried to do that
Hmm.
to an extent. I still don't think that it was useful for me, but the thing is maybe that's useful for people who don't know how to think critically. And like, that's not a bash. That's just something that unfortunately our society doesn't teach people at a younger age.
Yeah, dude.
If people do know that, that's because of their experience, and they are lucky. But there's so many people who don't understand how to think critically or how to research and stuff like that, because our school system isn't the best.
Yeah,
So there's
it's tough,
scenarios where
dude.
that's useful. And I think the biggest thing is, like, if you do go to school, I think the best solution for if you want to be a designer is to just not go to a design school, because those are ridiculously expensive. Go to
Okay.
like a cheaper school if you have to, and spend your extra time just building stuff. Like, that's if you're able to do that. Now, I realize that I went on the tangent because of one tiny thing you said in the beginning of your last question.
No, that's okay.
So I'm very sorry. Can you
No,
repeat
this
your
is
last
very
question for
valuable.
me?
So, no, it's very valuable. I think that's the first part of the question. It's like, what would you tell, someone going into this, and perhaps how you would advise your own child, for example. But it seems like, yeah,
Oh,
like you
okay.
really have to be proactive. You need to go out there and put the work in, and research on your own. Don't rely on the education, the schools, to teach you the skills that you need. You need to actually get in there with these programs and learn, and just keep pushing yourself and learning. So I think that was a great answer to that first part. The second part that I'm interested in getting an answer on, and this is applicable to any field, I think, but you can give a unique insight with just in the game industry. What are some tips you'd give someone who, they're fresh out of school and they have the skills, they get the job at the big game studio? What should they expect going in, and what are some tips? Like you were alluding to before, you're a creative, so you want to share what you think, right? Your ideas, and it's like, maybe you gotta kind of like keep your head down, kind of thing, going into, but you go ahead and answer that as much as you can, but just in general terms, going and working for like a large company, what should people kind of like understand going in that would help them?
Sure. So, the biggest thing I would say is congratulations, you got a job in the industry. That's
Hmm.
the biggest first step, and it actually makes all the other steps um, quite easier because now you have portfolio and you have background.
Hmm.
Um, I would say the biggest thing is to not stop. Um, the thing is that of course you have to consider a lot of things. You have to consider if you have responsibilities. You have to consider if you what you want. Do you want stability? Do you want money? Do you want title? Do you want a full-time job? Do you want to focus on your family? Do you want to focus on your health, education, things like that? There's a lot of things that go into what you do next. Um, from my own experience, I've been a contractor for most of my life. With biggest thing that the contractor means is the fact is that you do not have the same protections that a normal employee does.
Mm.
You're easier to get rid of. You're not paid as much. You don't get benefits if you don't. You're not required to get benefits. Things like that. There's a lot of things that are different as a contractor. But the benefit of a contractor means that you're at will, meaning that the company or you specifically can leave for any reason and without notice. And
Right.
that's you could say that's a good thing or a bad thing. We won't get into that. But the point is that I think if you are in that situation where you're a contractor, um, the biggest thing is to realize that you might there's a possibility that you will not have a job tomorrow because as I said, for any reason you can get fired, you can leave with no notice.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing to realize is to never stop improving yourself just because you have a job.
Okay.
When you're done with your job, keep working. Whether that means, of course, if you have a family, you have other responsibilities, take this with a grain of salt. But the thing is that if you have the ability, and you should try to have the ability, is to, you know, do stuff at home. If you're a tech artist, experiment with things. If you're a level designer, experiment with levels, research stuff, build stuff. Because the thing is that you want to improve your skills because if and when your contract ends, you want to be able to continue on and you want to be able to move forward in your career without getting, uh, getting stuck. You don't want to be out of a job for so long. And I think that's part of the reason that whenever I leave a job, I've been a contractor, so essentially I move between jobs very quickly, um, because they're usually time limit. They're only like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Um, I'm able to get a job within a few weeks because the thing is that during that work, I'm still building stuff. I still spend time out of my day to
Mm.
set aside time to build something, and of course you want to be careful because if you're working for a company, particular bigger companies, they're really strict on NDAs. Even if you start building something that even looks remotely like say for instance, if you're working, for a studio that makes a car simulation game, for instance, you do not want to make car simulation stuff in your free time and post it on your portfolio because
Yeah.
then it's assumed that you've been leaking stuff even if it's not true. But
Right.
the thing is like you have to be careful with that, but at the same time building stuff in your free time and not stopping so that you can say, you lose your job or you leave your job, whatever it may be. uh you could have a backup and you do not have to worry about how am I going to pay the bills tomorrow.
Right.
um
That
that's
makes
the
sense
first
to
thing
me.
I would say.
Okay, that's the first thing. What would be the next
the
thing?
the second
So don't stop
the
working.
second thing would be to yeah the second thing would be to don't let don't don't let your ego get in the way of you succeeding. And what I mean by that is people get attached to their work. In any creative field, people always get attached to their work. And I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen gamers, the way they react to stuff. You know that there's going to
Yeah.
be a huge beating of any game that you make. People are going to say, "Oh, whoever they are, whatever game it is, about good or how bad." You're always going to get people who take the work that you've spent years on and say
Hmm.
that it was absolute shit. It's like, sorry, bad. It's
That's all
terrible.
right.
So like that's the other thing is like to look at that and be like, okay, you cannot get attached to your work.
Okay.
People in the industry, people in your studio will be saying things about your work and will give you feedback. Of course, it's with the best of intentions, especially if it comes from your coworkers. But you
Yeah.
cannot say like, if I build a level and it's terrible, I need to be okay with people coming to me and saying, "Hey, this level was terrible. You need to fix this, this, and this," and not get attached. Because I think the biggest thing is, as designers, is that we have huge egos, and
Mm.
it's not easy to let go of that. But it's important because it's for the good of the product. It's for the good of the job. And I think the biggest thing when you start your first job is smashing any expectation that uh, you're gonna make the best stuff ever and everyone's gonna love it and you're the best ever. That's the biggest thing, is like, even if you don't feel that way, you still feel a connection to your work.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts when somebody says that it was bad. But
Mm.
that's the biggest thing when you work for a company too, is like, it's not yours, it's the company's. They're paying you money to
Right.
buy your work, buy your time. So you can't look at it as, this is my work. You have to think of it, this is the company's work. They want a specific thing, and I need to produce that specific thing for them, because if I don't, then I don't have a job.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Was that an issue for you at 343 where maybe there was some clashes or I don't, not maybe not even clashes but just like situations where you should have brought the ego down but did not, and it's just because it was a new thing and you didn't know that that's something you have to do, where it's like you're very passionate about your work, and then you know it created issues or anything? Or because that was my experience working with a big company.
Well, I would say that it happened at every job that I've worked at.
Okay.
To an extent.
I see.
It's, of course, you have to feel them out and figure out, where is the limits of what I can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do I have permission to do? Who do I need approvals from and stuff like that? How attached am I to the project? I'd say that 343, I was the most attached to the project than any of the other jobs that I've worked at.
Yeah,
Um, but you know, that doesn't change anything. So of course, it's happened everywhere for me, and
I
like, I
see.
think I've gotten a little bit better at dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, of course, something that, I've seen.
It's just such a
I
challenging
know a lot
thing.
of people. Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of people who get really offended, like, they take it personally, and it's like,
Mm.
no, don't take it personally, please. You're a great designer. It's
Yeah.
just that what you're doing does not match the design of the product, and you have to accept that.
It's got to be so hard because they're hiring you to create something which requires a lot of creativity and a lot of passion. And when you create something, you're putting your all into it, and you're like, I know people are gonna like this. You have to have a level of confidence behind your creation. But then like you said, someone you can't take it personal, I guess. If somebody says this is not right, this doesn't match the vision. But it's hard because it's like, hey, like, you hired me presumably for my creativity, for my design skill, and then
I think
I'm
it, I
designing
think
something for you, and then
Yeah, like, I think the biggest thing is, like, I mean, for me personally, I think, for me, confidence is a bad thing,
mm,
because the thing is that, for me, every time for me as a person, I understand myself enough to know that if I get confident, I generally have a big ego, and then I kind
okay,
of spiral out of control at that point where I'm like, oh, everything I'm doing is awesome. And the thing is, I haven't really gotten to the point where it's so out of control, but I know that that energy is inside of me, and I'm always trying to keep an eye on it, because the thing is that as soon as I get I think anyone, as soon as you get confident over your work to a point, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm now not doing what's best for the product. I'm doing what's best for me.
right,
And that's another thing too, is like, the job of the designer is not to make things that are yours. Like, that's
okay,
you're not making things that are for you, or that even are show your best. Like, you're not even making things by yourself.
hmm,
Your job is to take somebody's idea and formulate it into a game in the best way possible, so that their idea matches the your work, and you can go in and say, oh, look, I made what you were looking for. um
hmm, I see,
and
I see,
I think that's the biggest thing too to learn is, when I was in school, everyone thought that I'm the ideas guy if I'm a designer. Well, no, you're not an ideas guy. You do not make ideas. You make content based on other people's ideas. You might
Right,
say,
right.
you might look at a situation where the directors have an idea, but it's not going to work based on the current design of the level or the game or whatever, or the
Hmm.
system. And you have to say, how do I take this person's idea and make it work based on the design goals of the product? And that might be the furthest you get into the ideas, because you know
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out how to make it work rather than, oh, I have this idea and I'm going to put it in the game. Well, no, that's not how it works. At
I
least in my experience and what I've seen, like the only people who have ideas are the directors, and they have years of experience, might not have the same goals as you, might not have the same experiences as you, and that's okay. They have their own agenda and their own goals. That's completely fine, but that is not your job as a designer. Your job is to say, hey, you have a good, you're giving me these sets of goals. I might not agree with you, but how do I make this work in the best way possible? Because my name is still going to be on it in the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think this is just a classic issue across all creative mediums, right? Like, I don't make the thumbnails for my YouTube channel, for example. I have someone make them. So it's like, I'm like, I want it like this, but I literally cannot create what is in my head. So I have to try to explain it. And so that is difficult, right? Because now the designer has to take just this sort of like text and convert it into, an actionable, well, not actionable, like an actual image, And
Hmm.
it's like if I want to build a house, like I hire a architect. All right, I want the house like this, and I make it like this, and then they make, they make a sketch or something like that, and or a blueprint, and I'm like, no, that's not how I wanted it, and they're like, but you said this, so it's kind of like almost an area where I feel like you're almost guaranteed to have, um, you know, I don't want to say, I guess just it's just difficult. It's just difficult. So you're always going to have difficulty because it's sort of like it's translation. It's like you're translating ideas into actual. I would say art. I would say video games are a form of art. The actual graphics and everything, the way they're created. And does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure, and I think I agree with you there, because it's like, there's always a disconnect between you see some memes online that basically people have a disconnect between the client and the contractor, the freelancer and the
Yeah.
client, or whatever you call that, and like that's essentially, you don't have to be a client or a freelancer to see that happening from day to day. Like that happens in every job. The
Right.
management or the client has a certain vision. Uh, might not be the best at saying what that vision is or how to implement it, but that's your job, right? Your job is to say, okay, they have this vision. How do you make it into reality? How do you make it work and look the best it can be?
Right. So I think a good final topic to talk about is the level you created that I made a video on. All right. So we have some good and some bad to talk about with this. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick. Yeah, I just want to have the image. So some of you guys are new to the channel. You might not know this one. So I did make a video on Caleb's level. So he made a level. Let's see if we can bring that up. Let's go full screen. All right, I'll just clip that part. Okay, so I made this. I made a video on Caleb's level. So essentially, I have a method for finding, Halo content that fills up this channel, right? So as I was searching for content, I came across Caleb's level. Caleb, why don't you tell us a little bit about the level itself? This was just wanted to confirm. This was something you made when?
I made this a few months before starting my job at 343.
A few months before. Okay.
Yes.
So when I saw Caleb's level, I had already done a ton of research on this game, right? So I did all these videos. I went through all of 343's content, and I had a vague idea of what I thought the game was going to be like, right? I already had made this video. Did 343 already show us what Halo Infinite's open world would be like, right? So I was doing a lot of, my own research on what I thought this game was going to be like. And then when I saw Caleb's level, I was like, oh my God, this matches everything, that 343 has been saying about this game, honestly. the design elements. And it turns out that you essentially did the same thing. You went through all their publicly available statements about this game to create this level. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so I've when I made this level, the first thing I did essentially was to essentially just read up everything that I knew was released. So I went through some of their interviews, I went through some of their the content that they had online,
By the
and
way, don't mean
I
to interrupt,
essentially
but
just I keep saying essentially.
I have it up, by the way, if you want to scroll through it while you speak. I think people will want to see it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have it full screen. So just while you're talking, you can
So
kind of. Yeah, it
this is
looks
the art
incredible.
pass I did.
And you did this in a
Uh,
week.
Not the art pass, the level design.
Oh, okay, okay.
The art pass I spent a little bit more time on. I spent maybe another week on the art essentially.
Incredible.
Um,
But I'm sorry,
but
I derailed you. So you were saying,
sure, no problem.
you're saying
So
like
yeah,
what you, yeah.
yeah. So I researched that stuff. I looked at what they were looking what they released about Halo at the time, which I think they only had one trailer out, which was the the announcement trailer, right? And then they had a bunch of interviews and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, okay, based on what they have been talking about and what I would want to see in a Halo level, I built a level, and
Hmm.
this is what that result was." Um, it's kind of weird looking. I mean, to an extent, like these mountains look weird, and it doesn't really make
I
sense.
don't
But I
know, man.
kind
I
of
think
use
it
that to
looks
my
sick, honestly.
thank you. I kind of use that to my advantage to think about, what could be a cool story to tell. And of course, it has nothing to do with the actual story of Halo Infinite, but it's like it was just a thing that I did for fun. And like, oh, what would I want to see? Me not inside the studio. What would I want to see out of that? And I kind of told the story about maybe the fact that uh, an idea that was really cool to me was that idea of um, a hollow terrain, essentially. The fact that the terrain itself had a bunch of tunnels and secret passages everywhere, kind of like Halo 1.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that down here, that there's like random hallways and stuff
Whoa.
that go around. And unfortunately, it's very minuscule in this
But it was
version.
done in
But
a
the first,
week, so.
yeah, the first version I had, the tunnels went everywhere, and then I realized, oh, I set this goal for myself of a week.
Hmm.
I need to cut that down. So I cut out most of the underground tunnels, and I had this idea of a figure eight type of gameplay. The idea that there's two objectives to do before you do the main objectives. You can kind of go back in between these two. You can read about this on. Let me see if I can pull this up.
So I do want to say, so when I found this, the way I looked at it was, I thought they had given this project to you as a way to test you out before. Yeah, I had put that in my video. I thought this was a video that they had, not a video, a project they had given you as a way to test you out before, kind of see what you can do and see if you can meet the design objectives of the game. But it turns out that, it's actually just you looked at everything that they said and was able to make something that does kind of match the stuff we saw in the July reveal. So yeah, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this does match everything they have said about Halo Infinite publicly, particularly the 2018 trailer and then the social stream they did after. So I was like, this could be a project that they gave him to test him out, And then the other thing I thought was, well, this is on his art station. This is on his YouTube. He seems like he's extremely skilled, which you are, and very smart. Just like that article you showed us, the whole write-up, I'm like, there's no way this violates an NDA, all right? Because there's no way this guy is capable enough to create something like this and then also wouldn't understand that he wasn't allowed to put it up. And that's ultimately why I made the video on it. I was like, I just can't imagine he's not allowed to have this up. And therefore, and it looks just like what I think the game is going to be like. And that's why I ultimately made the video on it. And then it turns out, yes, that you made this way before you were even at 343, and that this does not violate an NDA because this was work you did before you were there. I put this video out, right? and then it seems as though around the time I put the video out or shortly thereafter, you were no longer working at 343.
Yeah,
So could you tell us
yeah.
about that?
I could say that they weren't very happy about
Okay.
about certain things, and it wasn't. I don't. I want to be clear. It wasn't. I mean, you did nothing wrong with that. Like, you did nothing wrong with anything that you made. Um, I think that this is. Um, I also do not believe that I did anything wrong, because for reasons that you said, this was a
Yeah,
level that was made before I worked there. This has nothing to do with Halo Infinite. I did not know about Halo Infinite, anything about their design principles when I made this. I was not under NDA at the time. I was not paid for this work. So there's a lot of things. I think that there's a few things I might have done wrong, i.e., the fact that I posted a Halo themed level publicly as I was like, it was online as I was working there. Like, I posted it before, but it was online,
but it was before you.
during my time there. And
Was it posted before you were
yeah,
working there?
yeah, it was posted before I was working there, which is why it was confusing. But, of course, there's many things that might have been what they were upset about. I can't say for sure, but none of it was for like, you didn't do anything wrong. You were speculating based off of something that you found online, which is definitely what they encourage you to do based on their marketing campaigns and stuff like that. And I don't believe I did anything wrong either, but I mean, I guess we could say that's up for debate to be the proper way
I
of specifying that.
I gotta say I do feel terrible for a lot of reasons, man. And look, I made the video, so I feel like I have a right to offer my opinion on this. I you know what really bothers me is I feel like I got the analysis overall correct. The thing I got wrong was that I speculated that this was something they gave you and then like a project to do, and then maybe they they let you put it up, and by doing that they showed some parts of the game, right? But that's not what happened. It's what happened is that you looked at everything they said and created something. So that's the part I got wrong. But the reality is like, yeah, you just happened to this level does match the July reveal in spirit, in essence. So it's like you looked at what I looked at and you just created a level, and I created some videos. But what messes me up, bro, is two things. One is that I got the analysis right. The most important part of the analysis I got right is that you were allowed to have this up. There was nothing wrong with this. All right?
As far as I know, yeah.
You did this before you were there. If they had an issue with this, they should have asked you to take it down, right? They could have just contacted me and said, "Hey, look, Sean." Well, I guess they're not going to do that, but they could have said, "Hey, this project wasn't supposed to be up. You want to keep your video up, fine, but just letting you know this wasn't supposed to be up." But they can't say that because you were allowed to put this up. This is something you did
The
before.
biggest thing too is, like, so say for instance, I felt like this might have been an issue. Okay, so a full story,
Do you
like, this
think
came
this
out
might be
before.
part of a bigger story?
Well, the thing is that that video was made before I worked there. That level was made before I worked there. It was
Yeah.
even published before I worked there. And then when I started working there, to be honest, I put it on private because the thing is that it is
Okay.
Halo themed. You can hear Halo music. It's obviously Halo themed. And
Yeah.
I was like, that might be an issue. I had a meeting with some people, I won't say who, and I got verbal consent to keep it up, as long as I didn't say that it was part of any title in development, which I did,
And you
and it
explicitly
is
said it
true.
wasn't. Right.
Yes. Uh, but yeah, I think in short, it wasn't anything that we did wrong. It was just the timing of everything just didn't line up with their expectations. They weren't. They. I can't specify any more
Yeah, no,
public,
don't
like,
go
about
too.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in short, like, it was just wrong timing stuff, and it's not the fault of of anything. It was just,
Neither of us,
it
dude.
wasn't your bad. Yeah, no. So
But I still
yeah, don't
feel,
feel bad about it. It's you
you know what
did
it
what
is?
you. Yeah.
Look, you're over. I don't even think we mentioned that in the start. You're at Amazon now, so fortunately, it seems like you know this didn't necessarily end really like badly, right? Like you're doing all right now, but it's still makes me feel bad. I'm still gonna take it as a learning experience, and it just messes me up because it's like you were again you. It's like no one did anything wrong, yet it became a problem for no
To
reason
be
either.
honest, yeah, to be
Because
honest, I was a little bit shocked by the video too. Like I actually found out about it because the team, my team, the design team, basically posted it on our chat, and they're like, "Oh, look, it looks like you're famous now." I was like, "Wait, what?" And I look online and I see this, and it was being streamed at the time, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
oh wow, they made a video on my stuff."
Which is crazy
Um,
because this is one of the first videos I did. Like this is the bottom of my channel. I had like 2 or 3 thousand subscribers at most. That's the thing here is like this didn't end bad, but I'm still gonna take it, and I can tell you guys this: I'm gonna take it as a learning experience because the channel has grown by a factor of like 5 or 6 at least since I made this. So
yeah, and
I just have
I
to be
think the
very
biggest
responsible with what I do, even more so. And it's just scary to me though that like I can make a video that like isn't wrong, and it could potentially really hurt someone. So I can just tell you I'm gonna take it, as a learning experience, and I'm gonna be extremely careful. But again, that's where I get messed up because it's like, bro, this it was allowed. You were allowed to have it. This was your project. What? I can't make a video on somebody's personal project.
I
It's tough, dude.
I think the biggest thing, like, I mean, it's not like it's something that's wrong, but like, I think that if you were thinking of doing something like this in the future, it's
Hmm.
definitely not wrong, especially because it's online. But having like something, like a like say, hey, man, I saw your stuff online. I made a video on it, and like just having
Yeah,
some sort of a heads up, just
yeah,
because, yeah, I mean, I think the only
yeah,
thing that surprised me is the fact that it just came out of nowhere. I was like, oh wow, look at that! I'm someone's making a video about me. That's interesting.
yeah. I
Not to say
totally
that it
hear
was
you.
necessarily wrong, but just to be like give a heads up for other people, like it might be a little bit more helpful so that we can be like, oh, okay, we know that this is going on, so that when someone talks about it, we're not like, what video are you talking about?
I totally agree. I would say that would probably be the biggest mistake I made is not hitting you up. Because honestly, bro, we get along well, so you probably would have been like, "Hey, yeah, I'll jump on the video with you. I'll tell you all about it." It could have been
Yeah,
a better video. But then,
I would have been perfectly fine with it. Like the thing that I would have probably done differently is probably talk with, say for instance, I would have said I would have told my managers and stuff, so at least they had a heads up. Because I
right?
think that's part of the reason. Probably I can't go into it, but like
Yeah, don't.
having a heads up, I think changes everything. Like you don't have to change your content based on what happens in the industry, but you can be like, hey. Uh, uh, I want to at least give a heads up because if they want to comment on something, they have the ability to comment on something. But I think that's just a thing that
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
again, I still feel,
that's the only thing I can think of.
yeah, I still feel not good about this. I feel a lot of emotions. I feel like, again, like we said, I feel like, yeah, things could have been done differently, but ultimately, dude, it's not like this is an actual level that was leaked. And I just like it's not like this is an actual level that was leaked and I like found it in your private thing and like put it out there and like did that. It's like, no, this is something you did before. So it's like, and
It's
again, I feel
publicly
like,
available for a few years.
yeah, publicly available for years before you were there. So I feel like I have a right to kind of respond. This is just my personal response right here. This has nothing to do with Caleb. So yeah, I'm gonna be very careful going forward. I have to be like I'm growing. Like I said when I made this, bro, I was like 2,000 subscriber YouTuber. Like it's different now. It's different. So I have to, as the channel grows, I have to grow with it, and I have to be very careful and understand if I make a video on someone, it's going to get a lot of attention. All right, or I mean, it was about a level. Um, but where was I going? This? Oh yeah, it's just how I feel. I am not happy with this, right? Because you know it's just not right, man. I don't under it. Ultimately, this video is just a Halo speculation video, right? You didn't endorse this video, all right? It didn't hurt anyone. It's not an act. It's not like it's a real leak or anything. And I just don't think it should have been a problem, and it bothers me. It really bothers me, and I'm not happy that it was even an issue to be at all. Look, bro, this is just like the world, right? Like, this is YouTube, this is media in general. People make things, and then people make content off those things. This is nothing out of the ordinary, right? Like, this is just like common. And so for them to have an issue with it, it definitely doesn't make me happy with what's let me think. It just doesn't make me happy. I'll say that. Um, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I've never really seen anything like this. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I think about it, and that's just my own personal opinion on it, not Caleb's. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say on it?
On that, I mean, I don't think there's anything I can say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, let's check out more of the level. Like, I really do want to see
Oh,
more.
sure.
Give us
All
a
right,
little
yeah,
tour,
I
and then
can.
we can kind of wrap up on that. I mean, bro, that's the thing. People love the video, bro. They loved your level. They flocked to your channel, and they loved it. So let's see. You
I
make
found
awesome
hilarious
stuff.
the what was it, the
The car?
Honda Accord joke. Yeah,
I
like
love the
that was my
Honda.
favorite. It was also funny because like I was trying to get something in quickly because I don't know how to script in a vehicle, like that's not my
Okay.
experience. So I grabbed something from the Unreal Marketplace, popped it in, and then like I realized that I couldn't figure out how to make it go faster.
Hmm.
So like it just slowly moves safely throughout the level. It's like, oh, it's being safe. No, be dangerous. Be a warthog.
So
A
show
flip
us
over 50 times.
Show us like yeah, people love that thing. They were making jokes in the comments about what that was. Like Pelican dropping it off. Show us more of the interior stuff because we couldn't see that really from the walkthrough video.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to go through like a walkthrough from the beginning to the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So you start off here, right? And
Bro,
this
I
is
made a
supposed to
whole
be like a
video on this. I want to
yeah.
see this.
Yeah, so you know that the pelican kind of flies off, and then you're in a tropical storm. This is a little bit smaller than it used to be, but for now. But like, so you go up, and then immediately you're hit with this small area where you're fighting a few dudes, and then you're hit with the first tutorial immediately. Essentially, it's the fact that you learn that there's these activators, the disable gates that happen throughout the level,
Yeah.
and you learn that these little plasma things are controlled by this. So that's essentially I hit the first tutorial early on, so you can kind of get a feel of what's going on.
Yeah.
Then you come through here, and then you're like, oh, cool, that's nice. You turn, and then you're hit with the first shot. You see, I have a camera here to tell me where that is.
So
So
sick. Yeah.
the first shot, right? This is the first look you get on of the full level. You get the vista, the landscape. You can kind of see everything that's going on, and then that's when the I forget the name of the track. The
Yeah, yeah. From Halo 1.
I don't remember that song, right? So it's like that's when you're hit with that, and it kind of introduces you to the level. You're like, oh, okay, I see. My objective is that wall. It's in the background, but it seems to be controlled by these two towers. Um,
Oh. Some
and you
people
could
thought these
see.
were like you could like slide across those or something.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but like, I mean, you see the energy going through it, and you just got a tutorial that energy does stuff. So it's like, oh, okay, but there's this other thing with a wall right there. So maybe I need to
Hmm.
go over here first before I can access this area. Well, we'll find out later. But look at this. I could probably see some dudes down there. I could see the vista and maybe see different routes I might want to take. So you come down. This you could jump off too, but let's pretend we're going the path.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you turn this corner, you get a full shot of that
Wow.
and the direction towards it. Like I spent a lot of time on the shots, right, and I make sure that I focus on composition. This is the shot where you get to that's why up here you're kind of introduced to the fact that, hey, maybe I should go here first, because I
Mm.
see the way to get there is I have to go here, then open that gate, and then go through. But then once you get to this spot, I change your expectation. I was like, oh, but that has a clear shot. I could see that I can walk probably all the way over there.
Bro,
And
you're
that's
so
when you have to make
talented.
this risk assessment. Like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay,
What's
so
to the left?
I'm always this way.
Yeah. Or are
Oh,
you
I'll
gonna
show
go that
you.
way? Okay.
Yeah. So actually,
Because I
the way
watched the
that it
demo.
started.
I watched your level and I was like, I want to play this. You know.
Yeah, that's I got a lot of requests for that too. Like I have an executable though, but like, I don't know.
Oh
We'll see.
wow. Yeah, maybe keep it to
uh,
yourself. I don't know.
I mean, I have no problem with people playing it, like breaking it. I would love to see people break it. But yeah, we could talk about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so essentially the thing is that you could see that this there's what we call this is Swiss cheese essentially. Essentially that there's like honeycombs of stuff, but theoretically you go one way, you come out the other way. Like that's everywhere in this island.
Oh.
So if you wanted to go down this river path, right, to the waterfall, then you end up here and you see that the trees and the rocks actually frame the tower in such a way, and then you could see, oh, look at that, there's a route down to the underside of it.
Wow.
That's an interesting
So
decision. Or
these
I
are all
can go this way.
skills. Did
Like
you learn these skills more on your own or from school or a combination of both?
on my
Because
own.
wow,
I'd learned none of this from school.
wow, that tells
Plus, I
you
have a
guys
background in
something.
video. I have a
Okay,
background in video, so this is stuff that you do with composition all the time. So,
I see.
like, theoretically, so maybe you want to go up here. It's like, okay, go over here. There's some combat cover stuff. All right, go up. And these are supposed to be like the Halo 1, 45-degree angle things, but I didn't do so well there. Come over here. You got a little elevator jump thingy. This is
Mhm.
actually before there was actually another path this way. You can't really see where you could go this way
Oh
too and
wow,
go underneath. I think there's even like a tunnel underneath too that I kind of cut out. See, there's even lights still down here because you
wow.
could even just go up that way. Like there's other ways to go around, but I had to cut it because it's like I don't have the time to
I
design all this whole
love
stuff.
this, dude. I love this.
I even had a second floor.
This is like yeah, this is like it reminds me of Halo 1 but just like way more options of going in and out of places. Like Sonic Cartographer
Yeah,
almost.
but unfortunately, like that was my goal. But then I was like, I can't do that. Fill it up with debris and pretend like it fell off, right? Pretend like this
Yeah.
thing
Got attacked or
blew up
something.
or whatever.
Well, I mean, you had a
But yeah,
week.
once, yeah. Then you come over here, you jump up, you have the thing jump up, and then you could press the disable gate, and then you notice that it's looking directly at the plasma gate. So as you press
Yes.
it, you can see the direct result of that. So you can immediately go straight down that way if you want. It's like, oh,
Yes.
okay, let's go left this time. So go through. It's like, oh, okay, so we get to this spot right here where we can see that. There's this other route over here where I see a glowing thing, or I can go this way where I can see a waterfall. Let's go for the shiny thing. Ooh, invisibility, cool. Grab that. Um,
Oh.
oh, and then I can like just slide down here and then get in this area, shoot some guys, and go inside the architecture.
It's remarkable how almost every part of the level looks just looks nice from where you're at. It's like almost
Oh,
any
thank
point
you.
you could look around and it just like
So
uh
that's actually one of my techniques is I play through the level a lot, and then every
mm,
3 seconds I stop and I look around and I'm like, do I know where to go? Does this look visually appealing? Every
mhm,
3 seconds. And if it doesn't, I
incredible.
work on it. And I put a camera down and then I start sculpting terrain. I start moving things around and I'm like, all right, once I'm happy with it, I go and I play another 3 seconds and I'm like, do I understand what's going on? If
Yeah.
I don't, then I go to it and I fix it again.
It
That's basically my
shows.
method. Is every 3 seconds just stop.
That's
And yeah,
fascinating,
here
dude.
too is I use these like I don't know if this is like Halo canon or whatever, but like I had this thing idea of like using this one as a light source because there's no light down here, and also using it as a method of pointing you down. You usually use lines to make people look a certain direction. You can see that here
Oh
where I
my
use
god.
lines in the level to point you towards a certain direction, which is that
Yeah.
and that. But like here, it's kind of hard because it's architecture, right? So I use this light to make you look. Oh, look, there's probably something down there. Oh, there's death. It's like, all right, go down,
No,
and
that's
then you could
genius.
um,
It's hard
just
to
some
imagine getting
basic
like better
pockets
than
here.
this at designing stuff
Oh,
because it's
sh-
simple but
there's
powerful.
ways.
Oh, there is.
Thank you.
This is all new
So
to me
here,
and I
there's
just
actually
love
a
it.
choice here too.
Okay.
There's the way you see that there's enemies down there, but you can go down the route, and then there's also a light that's supposed to be there. I don't think it's there anymore,
And
but
you can
you
like
just like,
slide down
oh,
the hole.
jut down the hole, and then you're like hidden from the enemies. You can kind of go a stealthy approach, like, oh, okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna go around and go
yes.
around them
So
entirely.
multiple ways to play through.
Yeah, the idea is to make this very it's very simple, but because it's like literally a cover everywhere on the edges, but then there's this area in the middle where they're supposed to hang out. So you could drop down and shoot them, you can go around and shoot them, or you could just kind of sneak by them, and it's actually designed to allow for that
That's
approach.
very Halo. That's Combat Evolved, man. There's a lot of parts in Combat Evolved like that where you can sneak by the enemies.
Yeah, you'll notice up here too, like everywhere I can, I try to have a sniping position. There's alternate routes up here.
Mm.
You can grab a sniper and go pew pew. You can go over here and
Go
go
pew
pew
pew.
pew. Like that's the goal, right? Is have as many routes of approach as you can, and like that's even inside. I try that, and then you go down here, and I try to do the leading lines thing again. I have the lines pointing downwards towards the objective. You press the button, and you see the light turn off, and you're like, oh, and then epic music plays. People spawn again. You go pew pew pew. You go
Oh.
exciting. You run out. I also took that from Halo 1. Halo 1 has a lot of backtracking, but they do something cool with it. Essentially, they try to at every point possible, when you backtrack, something new happens. They have
Yes.
enemies spawn in. They spawn do different things. Maybe a pelican crashes and gives you loot, things like
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
actually straight up ripped that from that because essentially once you get out, there it is. As soon as you get out, that
Yes.
pelican wasn't there before, so it spawns. I wanted it to have it crash, but it doesn't. So it's like, it just shows up there, and the idea would be you would either get a radio call saying, "Oh, we're going down," and it crashes, or you would see just the crash yourself. And you could
Bro.
see it. You could basically it's in a place where it's not hidden. You see the fire and you can get it. Even if you do the other tower first, as soon as you get out of the other tower, you see it as well through that. And there's supposed to be like a
Oh.
orange light and some flame
That's like
smoke
Silent
going up.
Cartographer.
Yeah,
When you
that's
come out.
literally ripped from Silent Cartographer.
Yeah. But I mean, that makes sense.
So
You were making a Halo level. It makes sense.
yeah, and then you can choose. I remember I had a warthog over here. I made it much more of a footpaths everywhere now because play to the strengths. So
Yeah.
then go over here. I was like, oh, there's a fire. Let's go inside. Oh,
Get
look
some
at that. We got some random
weapons.
stuff.
So,
There's
so
even like another path over here that you could have done if you went the other way.
what was that
But
little cave? Yeah, right
so
there.
yeah, as soon as you get out, like if you go inside the Pelican and you come out, you should get a clear view of that objective right there. You could see the path going to it,
Yeah.
but you can also see that cave. There's a blue light in there to contrast the red light. So you now
Oh,
have a
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
It's like, oh, there's a cave over there, or I can go in there. What seems more interesting? You could choose to go down there, or you could choose to go to the cave. So I chose in the video to go down the cave because for me, I think that's the most interesting one.
Of
Go
course.
down, and then you're introduced to the underground of the island, right? We have like the stuff you could see the blue lines again. You shouldn't see that, but
Yeah. Just
then
like
there's like this little
Forerunner
cart
stuff.
thing, a little cute cart to take you all the way down this long route. And then you get to see the underneath. This is the point where we introduce, oh, look, you're on the edge of this island. You could see the areas that you were going around. This pole right here is actually meant to show you this. This is actually the
Oh,
pole and is placed there purposefully so that you can think if you pay attention to everything, you might notice, oh, I know what that pole goes to. I know that that's a little thing that's up there. So I can
that's
continue
so
on
sick,
knowing
dude.
where I am. You should be able to think, oh, I'm underneath the tower now.
It's really
And then you
fascinating. It's like a movie. It's like you're designing it. You really are designing an
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's even the lighting too. I tried to make it interesting. You can look down this route and you can snipe or go down shooting. And I wanted to be sure that that created an experience for either type of player. And then you come in, it's like, oh, look at that. We shoot more people, go up.
Oh,
And oh, look at that. Now I know for sure that this is the tower because it has that same blue beam thing.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
go down and look at
Repetition
that.
is
That's
good.
actually another entrance you could have done.
What?
You could
Oh,
have
yeah,
came
the
down
other one.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you could have just bypassed. I have the little triangles from the games. You
Yeah,
come
dude.
down, and then we have this area up here, right? So you can kind of shoot, go around,
That is funny
and
that
then
the Combat Evolved did have a lot of just literal triangles aiming you, telling you where to
yeah,
go.
yeah. Like that's. I was watching a dev diary thing of the speed run or something. They were talking about how everything was kit made, and they're like, oh, you have 3 days to make a level,
Oh,
and then they just had to smash this stuff together. And like I was like, oh, I sympathize for you, man. Like that sounds like it must have been nightmarish. They're like, make it
yeah, dude.
copy paste this level everywhere and make it seem fun, like is what he was saying. I was like, oh man, I feel for you, man.
So you've watched a lot of development footage to help learn stuff.
I mean, even when I was younger, I used to watch the Halo vidocs they used to
Oh yeah,
put out
yeah,
all the time. I used to rewatch them over and over again because I liked the music and I liked learning how they made the stuff, but mainly the music. So I was like, I used to watch the same ones over and over. I think like I think the ODST. I love the music, but like Cinema Paradiso or something. I just like the editing and stuff, and I used
yeah.
to watch it over and over because I was like, oh, that's cool, that's cool, and I would even have it in the background. I'm weird like that. I like to watch things over and over. It's weird.
Nah, dude. I was the same way when I was younger. You find something nice and you just absorb it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like this is the second power thing. Looks exactly the same. You shoot
Hmm.
it, and then it kind of people spawn again. You return. The biggest difference, which I think is cheating, is that I spawn boulders here and here to forbid you
Oh,
from going out these directions. That was an uneloquent, eloquent way of trying to fix a problem, which people. This is supposed to be a high octane moment. The music's up really high.
I
You're
remember that.
trying to
Yeah.
get to. There's a set piece that happens when you get outside. So I specifically blocked this route and this route even in the other way, like so that you don't go in a way you shouldn't. And I guess it makes sense because you're blowing up something, so maybe some boulders fall. I mean, that was the excuse, but essentially that's an uneloquent way of saying you can't go there,
Right.
which honestly is all game design. All game design is just making
Sometimes you're just gonna
excuses
have
for
to.
bullshit decisions.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
feel like you would have. That's okay. I feel like sometimes you just have to do stuff like that. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, as soon as you come out, you get that shot too of the
Always
Covenant
nice
ship, which
shots.
essentially was just a random shape. My goal when I was first designing this was that at this point you've knocked down their defenses. So the Covenant brings their massive ship and looks at you and you're like, "Uh-oh." And then your buddies come from the other side and just come in at the same time and just shoots at the Covenant. They have
That's
this massive
so
battle. Like the
epic.
idea was that there's this massive battle happening in the sky as you trying to run away. Even from the other route, like if you took this one as the second one, you would see it right in front of you too. So that was the idea, is to make sure that you could see all the action without putting any effort.
Dude,
And
you're
then
so
you
skilled.
go through,
And
and then
then
this bridge will appear by then, and you shut down that one, and you can kind of go through,
and
and
then
yeah, you
that's it.
win.
Yay.
But
Bro,
yeah, as I
awesome.
that's just one direction. Like there's these other routes and stuff that
You could do
I
this.
don't show.
You could do this almost what, like two, three solid, like unique experiences on this. They'll bring you to the same
Yeah,
point, but it's just multiple ways to play through it. That's so
that's the
fun.
goal, right? Is to make sure that any way you play this, you still experience the content in any way that you want. Something that I try to be sure of as much as possible is to just make sure that any situation you play it in, I want to be sure that you can still experience the content in a good way, so you can bypass this part of the level and not disable this gate and just go straight over here, or just go straight over here. Like that's designed. That's so that you could still enjoy the level in the best way possible. And then
Yeah.
if you wanted to come over here first and then go over here, still get the same, or even better. Like you still get the content I'm trying to show to you, but it's in a different way, and you can kind of experience it in a different way just based on the design of the level and the way that I guide you through.
This
Um,
is awesome, dude. I love it.
I
I
use
love it.
Thank you. Thank you so
So that's
much.
that.
And
That's as good of a walkthrough as we're gonna get on this. I mean, that is incredible.
yeah, I mean, that's
Exclamation.
I'm really proud of this one. I spent a lot of time on it. I spent like a whole week on it, day and night, like just trying to get it to a spot that I was like happy with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I was scared of like the way that it turned out because that's just who I am. I was like, I'm not sure that I like the way that this is. I'm not
Really?
sure that because it's super unnatural, right? Which Halo is not natural, but the thing
Yeah.
is, it's super doesn't make any sense. These cliffs make absolutely zero
I see
sense.
what you're saying.
Um, it's
I see
like
what you're
there's
saying.
tectonic plates right there, like in the center, and like just this weird stuff. But I really like the fact that of its purpose, right? And that's what I was trying to do. Was try to it doesn't quite make sense, but the purpose fulfills its goal, which is why I was happy enough to actually show it. And I didn't really do a full art pass on it. You still see there's these checkerboards everywhere, especially with the buildings. But I was more focused on trying to get the naturals part because that's my speciality is terrain art and stuff like that. And like that's what I wanted to focus on here. You even notice that the terrain has some undulation to it, I guess is the way to put it. You notice
Yeah.
that it has like this dip and
Yes.
on the walkway.
It looks like
That's
it's
that's
used.
because it's a natural path, but the biggest purpose is from a first person perspective. That's the easiest way you can see directionality because if it's flat,
Mm.
you don't see direction. So how I say every 3 seconds I stop and reevaluate,
Yeah.
like that's having this dip and like you can see the banks, it banks in a certain direction. Like that's a big thing because you can focus on, oh, I know that this path is going left, so I can just
Bro.
look at it and say, oh, this is going left, I know that I'm going to be going left. If it was flat, then it would be like, oh, I don't know which way I'm going to go, I'm going to go there, then figure it out. And that's the easiest way to confuse people.
You're
All
like a
art and all
guru of
design.
yeah. You're like a guru
Yeah,
of
like that's
guiding players, and they don't even know it. Like
thanks.
I didn't even notice that, but you're right. That concave to it really helps a lot.
That's kind of the art of it too, is like players do not know where to go and they get
Yes.
lost very
Yes.
easily. And that's not a bash, that's just saying,
It's
that's just
just
the truth.
yeah.
It's like they don't know where they're
I
going, they
get
don't know
lost.
what they're doing. And yeah, and that's why as a designer you have to put so many different, you use color, you use animation, you use effects, you use lighting, you use terrain, you use assets, and every tool at your disposal to guide the player. Because theoretically, if there was nothing else except the level itself, they should still understand where to go.
Incredible.
And that's why
Incredible.
these towers are so prominent. That's why everything is supporting these towers rather than the towers are supporting the environment.
Dude, you
Um,
seem to make it look easy if you ask me.
uh,
So, dude, we've
I
been
mean,
talking
no.
for an hour and a half. I think this is a good point to wrap up on. I've learned so much, Caleb. So I thank you for that. I think this is a really informative discussion slash podcast, whatever you want to call it, video. Just to start, just talking about just sharing our experiences. Yours, of course, more so. Just working in a large organization and just giving some really good insight on game development, dude. That's so valuable. We talked about the level. I just learned a lot just looking at this walkthrough with you. I think this is really informative for people, man. Let people know where they can find your stuff, all right? I'm going to put links in the description to all of Caleb's stuff. There's also going to be a pinned post. There's going to be a lot of stuff. So I know you have a link tree. Let me get
Yeah,
that
I
up
actually
here.
just made that for this video actually because I haven't actually done this, so please forgive me if it's not fully made. But essentially,
No, it
yeah,
looks
this is
good.
this is my yeah. You can my art station is Caleb. I mean, I won't go through everything, but you can find me on ArtStation, YouTube, Twitter, Medium, Instagram. All those are available. You could see some more of my content. You could even we're actually starting a YouTube channel. Well, it's already there, but we're thinking of growing it like for YouTube
Gear shift?
because I make environments and I post them and level design. Yeah. Because essentially, what we're thinking of doing is basically building a community of people to learn more about level and game design, and also level art.
Oh.
So essentially, we're going to be building. I'm trying to get more people involved, but it's hard because we don't really have the ability to do that. But yeah, essentially, we're trying to get to a spot where people can go to a website or go to YouTube and see tutorials, see breakdowns, see interviews with people in the industry, um, and basically talk about level art and design, and like just kind of go deep into that. Because I think the biggest thing is a lot of the stuff that I talked to with you about is not common knowledge, not things you
I
can find
Yeah,
online. It's
that
purely
sounds right.
given through experience, and that's a big thing that happened with me. Is like I talked with, like, I've worked with so many talented people in my time, 343, and in the industry, and Amazon now, and like that's the biggest thing. They teach me something, right? Like a lot of this stuff I was taught like through experience and through you know people that that were really talented in the field. And I was like, oh wow, how did you learn that? And they're like, there's no way you learned that. That's just experience and
Mm,
references and stuff. So essentially I want to make a channel where we don't talk about technicalities. Like every channel will tell you like how to do something like this, but they won't tell you the thought of the design process. They won't tell you what goes into designing a terrain, designing a level in general,
right.
what thought process for composition and stuff. And that's what I wanted to focus on, and I'm trying to build that up. I released a trailer for that. I haven't had time to start, and I'm super sorry for people who have been excited about that, but it's like I'm trying. I'm trying really hard, and if
No, it's
if
a
you're
lot of
interested in
work.
that, let me know, and I could definitely start doing that. Like that's something I'm trying to get people involved in the industry as well, so we can have
Dude,
content.
you have to. You're
So,
incredible at creating stuff, and you're very eloquent the way you speak. You're obviously very smart. People are going to want to listen to you. I'm telling you, they're going to enjoy our discussion, and I will definitely plug your stuff as much as possible.
thank you.
It sounds like a great thing. We need to get some eyeballs on it. I'm all, I think education is the future. More education available online, stuff that you can't get in the schools, man, because, not everybody can afford to go to school, and then even then you don't get everything. But hey,
Yeah.
Caleb,
Plus, I
let's.
want.
Oh
Yeah.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna add, like, yeah, I agree with you, because I want people to be more prepared than I was, and
Right.
it was daunting for me when I started. Like I did not, I thought like maybe I could learn through my own methods, but you can't. And I mean, there's nothing we could do to really ease that all the
Yeah.
way, but just to find ways to make it easier for people to transition and to realize what goes into being in the industry. Because GDC talks are nice, but they reach a limit, right? And there's like, I want to have
Right.
a channel like like some of these other channels where they talk about stuff constantly, but I want to focus purely on the design of it, focus purely
Yes,
on
dude.
you know composition, focus on art and things like that, rather than, hey,
Everything you
this is
just
a
showed
tutorial on
me.
how to do this. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically I
everything
want
you
to do
just
the
showed
same
me.
thing except on the channel. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's great. Hey, Caleb, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I hope we can do some more stuff again. If you really want to do this YouTube and build your channel, then you can definitely come on Coffee Catch Up again. We can do a shorter episode, and we can definitely get more eyeballs on your stuff. It'll be great. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was an incredible conversation. An hour and a half after I clip it. I don't have to cut out much, so it's going to be an hour and a half. So I think that's pretty awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out Caleb's stuff. All right. And you have anything else to say at the end, Caleb? Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
No, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. All right, guys. Let me wrap this up, and then I'll do a outro. Yeah, how I normally do. What a conversation. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed what was essentially a coffee catch up special. So that wraps up this coffee catch up. Super special, right? Hey, if you enjoyed, roast the like button, all right? Roast the sub button. There will be more of this stuff. You already know. And hey, that's all I got for now. So I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.